This week, it's Side. It's a real estate technology play. It's sort of the Shopify for real estate agents. We've got the story of how they were founded, the venture money, and they claim to be heading out for an IPO, but not so fast. They've got some growing to do. This week. Side. It's sort of like Shopify for real estate agents in that it enables them to have a presence online. Let's take a look at the history, the money they've raised, and where they're going. Side was started by a gentleman named Guy Gall and these people, Edward Wu and Hillary Saunders. They had a vision to basically make this Shopify concept for real estate agents. And they had that concept in 2017 as they looked at it and said, you know, there's something that happens with agents the longer you're with a traditional real estate company. So first, let's have a mini case study of what happens as a real estate agent through your career. So right here, I got this simple little chart. And over here is the brand or services you need from your national real estate partner, whether it's Keller Williams or RE/MAX or whatever. And this is low to high. So the blue line is you as an agent producing. Well, initially, over time, you're not producing so much and you grow up there and eventually hit some sort of plateau after, say, 20 years in your city where everybody knows you, you're selling a lot of homes, you get the good listings, you get referrals from your customers, and it takes time to establish that unless you've got a really large family or a large circle of influence, like maybe you were a soccer coach at a high school, everybody knew you for 15 years, and then you stepped into real estate. So if you don't have that sort of a network where you know a lot of people, then it takes time to build that, and that's the blue line. So over time, you have very high agent production and market presence. So in other words, you're doing really well. The white line here is the brand and services that you need. At the beginning, you need Keller Williams, you need RE/MAX. They help you with all this back office stuff. They help you with legal forms and all the things so that you can conduct your real estate transactions, and they're referring you to, I suppose, title companies, escrow companies. But over time, you really don't need that because you're getting better and you know people at title companies, you know loan brokers. You've got a library of people that are your go-to people that may be ones you prefer that are not the ones that are recommended by your local RE/MAX or Keller Williams office. So the lines cross as you, as an agent, start producing more and you have great market presence and people know you, and your need for the services go down because you could find them yourself and you're making enough money. Hell, I can hire an assistant and they'll call loan brokers and connect them with my buyers and do a lot of things like this. So point one is you're a local agent and you're in this zone and you stay at RE/MAX, you stay at Keller Williams because it works for you and they're supplying all these great services. But then the lines cross and it's a decision time. Can you open up your own shop and be your own brokerage? Finally, Side. As you go further down this decision suddenly becomes a question. You can reach a decision when the lines cross, but the farther you go and the farther these two lines get across, the less you really need the national brand to be helping you, and the more you're just scoring in your market. Number three is Side, becomes a question. Why haven't you done it yourself? Ladies and gentlemen, Side fills this gap right here. And they encourage you to make the decision sooner. So Side is not for everyone. They are looking for high-producing agents that have a great presence in the local market, don't have complaints, have a good score. In other words, you're a great professional agent doing a great job, making good money, and now Side wants to help you make great money. How do they do it? Well, they provide all of these services on a cloud virtual basis. Marketing, your website, there's a lot of branding and stuff that they assist you with. And then now they're doing all the back office for you so that you can be who you are, going out to get the great listings and be the person in your market. And you're not giving so much back to Keller Williams or RE/MAX or whomever. Now you can keep more of that because Side keeps a very small percent of the back end, and they scale their business with this huge cloud-based architecture to supply it for you. Make sense? There it is. So let's see how they did. Well, after starting in 2017, they go up and they had about $2.5 million in seed. And then later in 17, they had a Series A of $8 million. So I don't know if there was some preparation going up here, but that's pretty quick to jump in and a testimony to the fact that this is a very simple concept that has a high impact. Well, They carried that for about a year, year and a quarter, I believe it was, till they ran their Series B and they raised $18 million. Then Series C later, and this is 2019, they raised $35 million. And then we have the COVID year, the forgotten year, where we all had to recover and do great things to protect friends and families, make vaccination decisions and do all that. So sort of the lost year where we were all reacting and working from home and stuff. And suddenly they raise $150 million at a $1 billion valuation at the beginning of 2021. So this is 4 years and you're suddenly a unicorn valued at $1 billion. Hats off to Side and Guy Gall and the team for what they were able to accomplish there. And they did it with this gap here during the COVID year. Now, what's interesting to remember during the COVID year, and I'm not going to get into economic theory and things like this, but all of this pump of money that came in there, this printing of $1.8 trillion in the final tally, where it was checks that were being sent to people. Remember, people were getting government checks, and also they were supporting industries like airlines and other things that were looking for not a bailout, but a kind of a carryover so they could pay the leases on their planes, stay in basic operation, and more importantly, be there as a thriving part of the economy called the GDP when all of this COVID madness is over. So the government is doing this, but when all that money was pumped into the economy, it also raised what's called asset prices. Well, asset prices includes things like land and things that are built on land, houses. So there is a lot of increase that was happening due to a shortage of new homes as building slowed during COVID, and the increase of the asset value that was underneath, driven by excess money supply. So during this time, let's translate it. Great agents that could sell the houses that would get the listings are now getting listings that are more valuable at the end of the COVID window than they were in the beginning of the COVID window, believe it or not. So there's even more need for Side as you come out of COVID to say, you know what, I just made it through COVID. Maybe this is the time to jump and make my own brand around myself, talking to all the people in the market that I know, friends, families, referrals, all these things, because I'm a guy here in San Francisco or Beverly Hills or Miami Beach or Dallas, Texas, or Woodlands near Houston. So I'm a great agent with a great clientele coming out of COVID. And I mentioned those particular cities because those are the states that Side is in right now. Side has been a geographic expansion similar to what Lyft and Uber did. And go back and look at my Uber case study to see about that. So they went one at a time to communicate with agents in these markets. Now, they don't want every agent in Woodlands, Texas. They want 2 or 3 of the best agents in that area because they don't want to oversaturate. And also they're taking a percent. So it's also like they're kind of making a bet in the area. And why would they enable people to compete too harshly with each other? They wouldn't. So their strategy is to find the best agents that are living on these sides of the curves and equip them to have their own shop and do it. So here we come out of here, and that's a $1 billion valuation, unicorn status after only 4 years. But wait, just a couple months later, Tiger Global shows up and they put another $50 million into the company. And what do we know about Tiger Global? Go take a look at my case study. They tend to put valuations out there that are more forward and higher. And sure enough, 4 months after a $1 billion valuation, $150 million that are coming in around, it's a Series E of $2.5 billion valuation. There's only one word for that, is damn! You went 1.5 on your valuation from the $1 billion mark in only 4 months in 2021 and only 4 years and change since you founded the company. I think that there's some growth into what's going on because they're only in these markets. So when I look at this, I see opportunities for the team. So I see a few check engine lights. Now, this is not downers, and if you're a fan of Side, these are not downers. These are, if I was sitting on the board, as I sit on other boards and I advise companies all the time, what would I say is the check engine lights? Like, keep your eye on it. First of all, scale execution. They say they're going to take this money, and they got $200 million just in the last 4 months, and to go to 15 states by end of year. Really? You were in these states, and now you're going to go here. So you better be ready to scale your execution. You have to run fast. This is very similar to when Lyft and Uber were together, and Lyft was kind of coming up after Uber when you take a look at execution. So they need to execute and hit their claims so that they can actually launch these 15 states with the lucrative areas like Woodlands, Texas, Plano, and Park Cities area of Dallas and things in Texas, Beverly Hills, all those areas where you've got these higher end real estate agents that could really use the side products. Got to hit your execution points so that you hit your claims. As for IPO, go quiet. I mean, there's talks about, yeah, we're going to do IPO in the future. This is heading to an IPO. There's a lot of buzz, a lot of momentum you get in the market on there, but I think it's time to execute and to use the money you have here and drive, especially as we come out of COVID and as you go into 2022. So in other words, head down, hit your marks, drive hard. Now is the time to be working 20-hour days at side, not back here when you founded the company, although that may have been happened. Now is the time I'd be looking for committed people on that team that are going to go execute. So let's look at the lessons on this. The lessons that I think is, this is a great opportunity. It was in plain sight. So sometimes you can find market opportunities in plain sight. They're looking right here in a simple chart. And this is my chart that I grew, but I imagine there's a similar chart sitting around side somewhere where they look at these things and say, wow, there's a gap right here. Why doesn't somebody do like a Shopify for real estate agents and help the better agents make more money and get out on their own? Bingo, they did it. I call that market opportunity in plain sight. And then scaling. This is a scaling opportunity. When you take a look at Uber and Lyft and the ones that had to scale market by market by market, because it's a human interaction that's there, like a driver in a car that have to be inspected and insured and all that stuff with Lyft and Uber, they have to go market by market and put teams out there to make sure those cars are good and they're suitable for you and me. Likewise, Side is working with agents that can't just go online and say, hey, make me an automated website. There's more to it than that. So scaling, are you ready for prime time? So whenever you have something like this and you're going to be scaling, readiness for prime time is critical. And lastly, simple can be replicated. When you back into this, although they have a head start and a lot of money, sometimes the second player may come into a market and drive further. So if I am these guys, and I find it kind of humorous, I always use pink for my lessons, in my case studies, but Lyft is pink, and I think that these guys need to look over their shoulder. Is there anything pink in the rearview mirror? Because simple can be replicated, and while there's a lot of things that go under the hood here, it is not terribly complicated. As a matter of fact, some of the brokerages out there with enough investment, they could do it. Now, it'd be hard for RE/MAX to say, oh, we're going to do this with our regular agents, and then we're going to pluck those agents out of our business model and equip them on their own. I don't necessarily think that'll happen, but what about boutiques that are out there? There's a company, Compass, that's out there with about an $8 billion valuation right now, where they've actually pulled some people off Compass. But Compass at the high end could fight back on that. So simple can be replicated, and there could be a little pink dot in the rearview mirror at the way Lyft was chasing Uber. So that's what I think about this, and I think this is a great core case study, especially we're not talking about a 10-year span here, and that is the story of Side, which I think is a great company. I'm going to keep my eye on it, and I've already referred it to 2 realtors that I knew in Dallas. Well, that's what I think about Side, but what do you think? Leave some comments down below. I answer as many as I can, and while you're there, subscribe to Valuetainment and hit the bell so you can get notifications when we've got more case studies and other great content. And speaking of case studies, if you like this one, go check out this one from the Biz Doc archive. I think you'll like it as well. Until next time, I'm Tom Ellsworth, the Biz Doc, and I hope I left you better than I found you.